Welcome to Seattle Public Utilities Ask Evelyn Live, where we answer your questions about recycling, compost, garbage, and other trashy topics. I'm your host, Becca Fong. And this week's episode, it's all relative. We share stories from you all about those moments when you were put on the spot to be the waste sorting expert, and the funny, awkward, and sometimes frustrating moments that ensue, and some tips and tricks about how to get everybody on the same waste sorting page. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Becca, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I love that you've got the recyclettes up.
I still have them up. Yeah,
I
so see if I
know.
can keep them in focus here.
They're so
Great. Yeah, so happy to join you. SPU Recycling Team, Outreach and Education. That's what we do.
yes.
So another 101 episodes now.
Oh my
Ask
gosh.
Evelyn. What
Oh
can
my
you
gosh.
say?
So good. And this week's episode, do you want to tee it up for us?
You bet. Okay, so this week is all about when you are out there and asked to be an on-the-spot waste expert. There are so many of you who shared stories with us. Thanks for all the notes that we got in. We'll see if we can add any insights and tidbits and information about inevitable situations when you're out there in the real world, IRL, in real life, and hearing from relatives and friends and family about
Yes.
what their questions are around recycling and composting and solid waste. And that's why it's all relative, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So
All
what's
right.
our first story that we got?
First question comes from Kate. This story, she said, every time I go home to visit my mom, I have to explain that you can't recycle Kleenex, especially the used ones, she wrote. Well, so Becca, what's the quick answer on Kleenex?
Okay, we are feeling for you so bad. And you know what? This is not uncommon. We actually hear this a lot, right? I know you and I have talked about this, Pat. It's like we do hear this a lot. People see paper and they're like totally recyclable. And unfortunately, the paper fiber is like so short, even if it was completely clean, it is not valuable. We've talked about this on the show before. The value in paper recycling is the length of the fiber. Kleenex, paper towels, napkins, too small. So, regardless, the only place it really could potentially go would be in the compost. But if you're blowing your nose on it, bodily fluids.
The whole thing is really, Kleenex is not, even if it's clean, not wanted for recycling. Like the fiber, the whole paper side of things, the whole like technical paper making thing, no. But the whole thing of like Kleenex, particularly tissues, that's not something we want in the compost either, because it's potentially carrying, pathogens, or any human like use of material on us is not to be put into the bin. So Kleenex, no go. It's garbage.
Yeah.
Maybe get a hanky. Get a hanky.
I know. It's true. But we feel for you, Kate. It is not uncommon. Your mom is not alone. And I think just having her direct that stuff to the garbage would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So our next one we have here is, this one comes to us from Victor. So when camping with others, and I have to explain that even though things are food scraps, that you can't just leave them on the ground because it's, quote, natural and they'll compost down on its own. So, Pat?
Yeah. If I was camping and I was like preparing some pineapple and oranges, there's some materials that would break down in some outdoor environment, but there's a lot of food waste that is not going to break down in an outdoor environment in a reasonable amount of time. And plus it will attract pests to the campsite. It's so really, the best thing, these are nutrient rich materials. This is good. This is food waste that's been grown, energy has gone into growing it and delivering it and so on. So let's get it back to the compost facility where those nutrient rich elements can go back into soil building compost. So
totally.
I think folks should bring a green compostable bag with them when they go camping. I think you should pack it in, pack it out. That's what they say, like Outward Bound and all those groups. They're like, wherever you go, take your stuff with you, right? There's no vacation from sortation.
Absolutely not.
When you go on your trip, when you go on your camping trip or whatever, bring yourself 3 bins, plan ahead, and prepare to sort as you go. That's really, I think you don't want to sort it. You don't want to put it all together and sort it out later. That's a little, but bring the three containers and sort it out.
Yeah, absolutely. We feel for you, Victor. I have definitely been in situations like that. I have also been at a campground when people are walking their dogs and their dog will poop on the ground and they just keep walking. And I have talked to a couple of folks and they're like, well, it's natural. I'm like, one, ew. Like that is somebody else's problem, not just pet waste, but litter, even food scraps and compost, like that has to get dealt with in some way. And who wants to deal with somebody else's dog poo? Gross.
Yeah, and we want people to scoop the poop regardless, whether they're on vacation, camping, or at home. Obviously, it's not what we want to see, getting into our streams and waterways.
No.
It's material that should be disposed of.
It should be, and it should go in the garbage. I think, I've definitely heard from folks about like, what about composting pet waste? We talked about that on the show. It's like, it's natural, but it's full of pathogens, right? Which is not what composting systems are built to deal with. Even our, really, really well-regulated municipal processors, they are not set up to deal with pathogens from pet waste. Or from
They're not permitted. They're not set up for it. Please dispose of it in the garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
All right. Next question. This one comes from Lewis. I was at a family gathering. A few people were throwing aluminum cans in the garbage. When I pointed out the recycling, they said, well, it doesn't matter. It all goes to garbage anyway. So this is like it's all relative. So we have those friends and family members who, it can either be, so giving them the benefit of the doubt. It can be that they're not informed, they're not aware of, where does it go? They don't recognize the materials that we send out and provide to folks. Fair enough. So just want to provide that helpful guidance as a steward of the environment, as a recycling nerd that we are. You take that mantle, you own it. But sometimes it's not even about the can, right? Sometimes it's a whole nother thing going on. So just don't take the bait. Focus on the material. Say, hey, that's aluminum can. That can just go in the recycling. It can become another aluminum can in like 6 weeks. It'll be back on the shelf as an aluminum can. If you want to be the storyteller of recycled materials, you can go there.
Yep.
But so that's a tough one. And I think many of us have been in that situation.
That is a hard one. I think you're absolutely right. It's like, just take a deep breath, because it's often not about the can, right? And this is an opportunity to see if there's some room to share some information, right? And I think that that's what's really hard is that, those of us in Seattle who are super committed to this and are, self-described waste nerds, it can be really hard. But really, you're going to get more people to be contributing and changing their behavior when you're working with them where they are. Pat, you and I have been doing this a very long time. Yeah. And that overarching is that you want to absolutely give people the benefit of the doubt, like you said, and just try to meet them where they're at. It's little steps, right? Because every time you want them to think of, they go to throw away an aluminum can, you don't want them to be like, man, Becca, she was really harshing on my time the other time. I'm going to throw it in the garbage to spite her.
Yeah. Or the family members who are like,
you can be like, oh, Pat told me that great story, and maybe I can save this resource. That's really where you want to go.
I think we both have probably experienced, and others probably have too, the situation where, you're at a gathering or even you're out to lunch with a friend and they're like, how do I do this again? Like, you're here, so I want to do it right, Right. And so, you want to be helpful, provide a little information. Obviously, at a party like that, this is a family gathering that Lewis mentions. Set up your bins side by side with a good label on the recycle thing. And if you want, if you're providing a certain plate that's compostable, tape one of those plates right above the bin so that all your guests can see, oh, this plate in my hand is obviously going in that bin. Yeah.
Totally. No, that's a total pro tip move right there, is to
avoid
tape the items to the bins so people know exactly where they're going to go. But, tread lightly, folks. We're talking about, it's not just about that can, it's about helping people on their waste sorting journey.
That's right.
So, however you can be helpful. So,
next question.
All right. So our last one here we've got, it's actually kind of similar. So I often go to gatherings, of any kinds, but particularly at someone's house, and people are always asking me how to sort things, right? Especially recycling and compost. And it kind of goes exactly with that. So you can be kind of caught up at the bins, and people are like, what about this thing? What about this one? What about this one? And then also, people get nervous around me to see if I'm sorting correctly. Yeah. And I feel bad about this, but kind of okay. Yeah. So, I hear you. Or from Stefan, we've all been there for sure. For sure.
I agree. I think having the information handy, knowing the ropes of like what the local area. The other challenge is like if you're visiting a friend in another district, another area, another city, and the guidelines might be a little different because we of course talk about the Seattle guidelines for Seattle Public Utilities. So in other places, their where does it go guide might say no to certain plastic clamshells or certain to-go containers. We're lucky that we have a wide spectrum of items that are accepted in our program. But so that's part of it. I mean, and actually just mentioning that is a good thing to do. Like, well, we'll have to look and see. Maybe we'll go look at the lid on the bin on the side of the house and see, what's on the sticker, what's accepted here. But the top 5, you're usually safe with the top 5: paper, cardboard, cans, jars, and tubs, plastic tubs,
plastic containers, plastic tubs and bottles. Like that's usually a really solid, it's a solid list right there to go with. And then of course, empty, clean, and dry. Like, and I feel like a lot of times I have definitely been caught at the bins, and I don't want to have to be the trash police all the time. And so if you can share those really quick tips, right? Like for compost, it's food waste, and then anything that says compostable on it. Right. Like, especially when you're at a picnic or something, you're like, hey, if it says just the other day, someone was asking about spoons. And I said, does it say compostable on it? Right. And so I'm like, all right. I'm like, yeah, you're good. Like it says compostable right on the spoon.
There you go.
Go ahead and throw that in. And then I'm like, honestly, if anything says compostable, you're good to go. If it doesn't, throw it in the trash. And then they don't have to ask me for every single item. So
and outside of Seattle, the plastic spoons and forks are still allowed. You'll still get them regularly from other cities and areas around Seattle. In Seattle, must be compostable, required. So food service businesses are aware of that, hopefully. And that's how we roll in Seattle.
I also have to say, another thing you could do is, if you are comfortable with it, you could roll up with your Where Does It Go guide or your top 5 guide, because you get those in the mail with you.
Keep it handy.
Family. You can certainly roll up with that. You can offer to kind of, if you know the host or you are the host, there you go. You can make some signs. I have definitely done that before.
Heck yeah.
Pat your tip of tape and stuff.
Little Sharpie. Little hand-drawn recyclette over the bin, maybe, a little apple core over the, let's have some fun.
I mean, Pat and I can go deep on this.
Okay.
But some other really awesome, super handy things too, is that I often tell people about the Where Does It Go tool online, right? And so on the front of that flyer, there's a little QR code, or if you just type in Seattle Where Does It Go into Google, it'll be the first hit you get. We got thousands of items in there. And then folks can look stuff up at the party, but also when they get home. Or, another really great tool we have is the Recycle It app. And you can also find that seattle.gov/recycle it. And that will actually send you a notification on your collection day, which is awesome. So you don't have to look down the street and be like, is it recycle week? No. The phone will tell you. And there's also a link to the Where Does It Go tool. So those are just some nice things to instead of showing people how to sort, you're teaching them how to sort.
Yeah. Right. And the color coordination too. Even if you don't have the fancy artwork that we provide, this is a business outreach set of stickers here. Another set here that we provide to businesses. But if you don't have these, that's okay. You can just use a blue pen, a green pen, a black pen, and do some Sharpie work. It'd be fun,
Yeah, for sure. And also, though, kind of as from, the previous situation that Lewis sent to us about the family gathering, is that, we appreciate that all of you guys are super dedicated waste nerds, and you guys do wear that mantle proudly. But it's okay. You can dial it back, too, because it is a journey. Right.
It is.
And every day is another opportunity to kind of share your knowledge, to teach somebody, to get people to change their behavior. So if this opportunity didn't work out, it's okay. There will undoubtedly be another.
That's great. That's a good point. I mean, there's so many moments when you're like, should I, in this moment, should I be, okay, I'm going to go ahead and wade in, say, hey, hi, but sometimes, you just take a breather, take a break.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's
Take care of your stuff, that's good.
Exactly. You can lead by example. I've been talked down off the waste nerd ledge at a party. So, you can do it. It'll be okay. Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories with us. Those are super fun. I'm sure all of you watching have some of your own. And if you want to share those or ask us questions, make sure that you send them to us. You can send them to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Or you can send us an email at askevelyn@seattle.gov. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we will see you next week, Wednesday, 1:30 on Instagram Live. And with that, I'm Becca Fong, and Life's Simpler with Less Stuff.
And I'm Pat Kaufman. Remember to cycle right. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.